I'm Kirill Loginov. I'm with the press. It's obvious that Skolkovo should be a place where big business should meet with science. How do you want to bring in the scientific community? Are you going to put focus on monetization, commercialization of various projects, or you're going to go in another way? Or do you think that basic science is going to play a bigger role? We have various formats. We have different ideas how leading universities could participate in our programs. One most obvious form of work is associated with putting together an educational center in Skolkovo. We are going to have a number of divisions like IT, telecommunications, biology, nuclear, energy efficiency. Maybe there will be a few more. For each one of those divisions, we are going to select a principal partner. We will be looking at universities which, together with foreign partners, could put together a plan for educating people in a certain area. We are going to have a system with several levels, basic, advanced, and postgraduate. We are also going to do quite a bit of research. That is an important part of our work. That is our approach to the educational process. We already have a number of partners. MIT, Edinburgh University from Scotland also demonstrated quite a bit of interest. Siemens is going to bring in their partners, University of Munich, and a number of other universities and institutes who, together with Russian universities, will create a program of studies that will be implemented in our education center. Let's take one more question from this side over there. Good afternoon. My name is Alexander. I have a question for Mr. Vekselberg and also to our friends from Silicon Valley. I'm going to ask a question in Russian. I have a company in Boston now, and by mid-July I'm going to move to Silicon Valley for 3 reasons. One, people, my employees, if they go to work, they do not want to just make their living. They want to create new business, new Yahoo, new Google. That's why they would go to work for a new company, for a startup in Silicon Valley. Another consideration, in Silicon Valley you can work with big partners like Microsoft or other companies like that and do it very quickly. In Boston this would take much longer. Third consideration is that in Boston, investors would take 6 to 9 months to do due diligence only. In the West Coast, it takes less time. So the question is, if there's resources, if there's venture funds, you can build the infrastructure. So the question is, how are you going to make sure that all those 3 components be realized in your project? How are you going to do that in one small cloud around Moscow? What do you think about it? Craig, do you have any ideas?
You know, a lot of the discussion here seems to be targeted towards Skolkovo or research activities and funding research projects, and I think that's all a very substantial part of this, and you need to have basic research ongoing, and Corporations need to do research with universities. The government needs to fund basic research projects. The corporations do their own research. But a really integral part of all this, and I think Joe Schoenberg described it very nicely, is you need to be able to grab the entrepreneur and let the entrepreneur do something. So having a active and vibrant and aggressive venture capital, seed capital, angel funding, all of the steps you go through to create a company has to be done absolutely in parallel with the research projects that Arkady, you talked about. The government is going to review and fund these. That's all well and good, but at the same time we need to be cultivating the venture community to come in and analyze those projects that are on the table. And I was in Moscow Monday and Tuesday with the MIT folks and visited 8 institutions and saw dozens of examples of potential commercialization of projects. Well, we need to grab onto that yesterday, not wait for new research to be done and then to go forward. So by all means, let's create Skolkovo and let's create the industrial partners and the university partners and do the research and create this center of innovation. But at the same time, and even starting tomorrow, let's have the venture community there that is starting to commercialize the existing opportunity. We don't need to wait for 2 to 4 years for something to happen. We can do it yesterday.
Спасибо, Крейг. Ну, у меня есть еще часть ответа на этот вопрос. У нас в Сколково будут...
In Skolkovo, we are going to have the best golf courses, the best restaurants, concert halls. Those are the areas where you can meet with the people that you are interested in. That is a part of the answer to your question.
Entrepreneurs do not have time to play golf. Let's get this straight.
You know, I'm trying to think if I ever had a CEO on a golf course in 25 years of doing this, it would scare the hell out of me. Let me meet you afterwards if you're going to move to Silicon Valley, but also let me address your question. And the real important question here is getting it started here and bringing Russians home. Let me give you a very simple way to do that, which is to start. When I sat in Silicon Valley and we watched Israel get started, and I went over and met a lot of the people, and I'd sit and talk with them, you know what they had in common? A lot of them had worked in Silicon Valley and done a startup and then came home. And then I went to China in 2002, and I remember I had met a fellow, and he agreed to have a party for me, and he had a whole bunch of Chinese people there, and what they all had in common is they had worked in a Silicon Valley startup, and then the nationalistic pride brought them home. And just recently we've done our first fund in India, and guess what? Guess where we met all our first sets of people? So if you do what Craig and I are telling you, which is get started now, go through the hard work of building an entrepreneurial community, they will come. Now, in terms of your question of partnering, why you need a great venture capital community here is it's the venture capitalist who makes the connection. I walked in this morning, I hadn't seen John in probably since Davos. He stood up, we walked off in the corner a minute. I have a very important company that John needs to know about. I talked to him about it, he got it, he stopped, he walked over into the corner and he sent an email to one of his people and he said, move. We've worked together for 10 or 15 years. If I call John, or if I call Michael Dell, or if I call somebody at Intel with an important deal, I'm going to get an answer back that day because they know we don't. And that's not just me. That's any one of the top 10 venture guys in the Valley because they know we're not going to waste their time. So that's why injecting venture capital into this whole process and doing it now is critical. Thank you.
Thank you. John.
You know, the question that you just heard probably was at the heart of what needs to change. In Silicon Valley, when you're in a restaurant, everybody in the restaurant knows the top engineers. You refer to people by first names. Innovation is about producing results, but also a willingness to take risk and periodically not to succeed. In fact, most good teams in Silicon Valley have chipped a couple times. You go to Bangalore, you find the exact same attitude. It is amazingly exciting. I was in Shanghai yesterday. All I need to say is Pony or Robin or Jack, and they know the three companies I was talking about: Tencent, Baidu, Alibaba. It is that type of innovation that we are saying, how do we get here and grow? But it's also having the courage to reward the innovation, to celebrate the success, because a lot of people respond, they go where they wanted to go. They go where they appreciate it. Your question is one I get all the time about why people come to Silicon Valley. They want to be a part of that dream and aspiration. And it surprises you how often that question gets asked around the world.
Thank you, John.
When listening to that discussion, I think that you have, or we have, one additional challenge. This is educational effort as well. How to create not only new kind of ecosystem, but new kind of thinking as well. And when knowing a bit Russia, but Europe as well, there is a difference between the American way of thinking and European way of thinking. And it's very critical when looking at innovation, because that method of thinking we have is fitting quite well with traditional R&D based development. You have to be able to put money aside to create new knowledge and new businesses. And that has been the model we have more or less been able to use until now. But innovation is not about that, putting money aside and waiting that something is coming out. But actually it is the opposite, putting knowledge aside and waiting that money is coming out and expecting that money is coming out. And I fully agree with you that risk is very critical. Understanding of risk and risk-taking capacity is very critical, not only in Russia, but it's critical in Europe generally. I had an opportunity to visit Stanford a couple of years ago when I was president of Finnish Innovation Fund, and we met a lot of entrepreneurs there, and I have never heard that kind of sentence. One guy who had made a career in music business, he was a member of Pink Floyd, some of us remember that rock band. Then he started his business, exited, made it again, and now he was, I think he was third time risking everything. And somebody of us asked this guy, how come you are doing this? You have made good career, why you are not starting to enjoy your life? And he replied by saying, risk is great. Have you heard any time in Russia that somebody is saying risk is great? Not even in Europe. I think that is the major difference as well.
Thank you.